let's make this happen, son. I love this book, The Mucusless Diet Healing System, and I want to go into the unlikely origins of this book, as well as what it actually is. See, this healing system was actually born out of sickness, the sickness of its creator, Arnold Ehret. At age 31, in the year 1897, he developed Bright's disease, which is inflammation of the kidney. After shelling out $201,000 in today's money, he was pronounced incurable by 24 of Europe's finest physicians. This was no laughing matter though. Ehret was physically and mentally bankrupt, and suicide started to look like the answer to end his pain. But by grace, he accidentally heard about naturopathy, which is an alternative system of medicine which treats diseases without the use of drugs. Ehret would go on to visit between 8 and 9 naturopathy sanitariums, and while he did experience some temporary relief, he still had no definitive cure to his Bright's disease. This time, he did not come away empty-handed. The realizations that Ehret experienced at this time would develop into the foundation of his mucusless diet healing system. As he began to learn from his experiences that his main symptoms were mucus or pus and albumin in his urine, as well as pain in the kidneys. What is mucus, pus, albumin? These are questions that will be answered later. For now, let's put ourselves in the headspace of Ehret as these events unfold. And to help you understand Ehret's reasoning for why right eating might be the cure, I'm sure we can all agree that urine is an elimination of waste from the body. So it would make sense that whatever is in our urine is not needed by the body. Therefore, it is waste, hence why it is being eliminated. And the material in our urine comes from filtering of our blood and our lymph, and the materials inside both of those fluids are deposited in there by our diet. Albumin is a protein found in our blood, and for humans it's called human serum albumin. And it presents a really big issue with the protein replacement theory, because it asserts that this albumin can and should be replaced by high protein foods, namely beef and milk, which do contain albumin, but this albumin is different. It is not chemically identical to human serum albumin, because this albumin is called bovine serum albumin. Bovine meaning related to cattle. Nutrition science wants you to replace a component of your blood with a component of cattle blood, which is not identically the same. The thinking behind this is the equivalent of performing a car oil change, and instead of using motor oil, you use olive oil because they're both oil. And so he reasoned that the cause of these substances in his urine was wrong eating. That means that right eating might be the cure. But what is right eating? Ehret was aware of numerous food cures and a few hints that fasting might help, so he traveled to Berlin to study vegetarianism. And his first impression of vegetarians, my first observations was that vegetarians were not much more healthy than meat eaters, for many looked sickly and pale. Nice. But regardless, Ehret took on the vegetarian way of eating, and with the starchy food and milk, Ehret's condition slowly grew worse. But it was at this time that Ehret developed an interest in the fundamental truths of perfect health, and he left no stone unturned. He would go on to visit a school of naturopathy and go on to learn about Christian sciences, mental healing, and magnetic healing. All of these left Ehret disappointed. From Berlin, he would travel to southern France, where he would go on to experiment with a radical fruit diet with the exception of a pint of milk a day, thinking that he needed the albumin, and he received little benefit. Ehret finally returned back home and back to good eating as per the suggestion of his well-meaning friends, family, and physician. He learned more about fasting, but the act of fasting was opposed by a social circle. His sister was even informed by one of Ehret's former physicians that someone with Bright's disease could die after a few days fast. Ehret didn't care, and that following winter, Ehret would travel to Algiers in northern Africa. The mild climate and wonderful fruits greatly improved Ehret's condition, and it was at this time that he started to develop a greater understanding and faith in nature's methods of healing. Ehret gained courage to try short fasts to help assist the cleansing properties of the fruit and the climate. He would document his findings and experiences at this time. They were quite interesting.
One morning of a well-feeling day, I chanced to notice in my mirror that my face had taken on an entirely new look, that of a younger and healthy-looking person. But on the next bad-feeling day, the old and sickly-looking face returned. Yet it did not last long, and these alternating changes in my face impressed me as a revelation from nature that I had found out her methods, in part, and was on the right track. And I resolved to study them more and live them closer in my future life. An indescribable feeling never known before of better health, more vital energy, better efficiency, and more endurance and strength came to me and gave me great joy and happiness just to be alive. This was not only of the physical, but there was a great change in my mental ability to perceive, to remember, greater courage and hope, and above all, an insight into the spiritual, which became like a sunrise, throwing light upon all higher and spiritual problems. All my faculties were improved, far surpassing their best during my healthiest and best youth. My physical efficiency and endurance became wonderfully increased. I took a bike trip of about 800 miles from Algiers to Tunis, accompanied by a trained bicyclist who lived on an ordinary diet, was never behind him, but often ahead toward night when endurance became the test. Keep in mind that I was formerly a candidate for death, so declared by the doctors, but now jubilant that I could surpass the most efficient and a constant joy of exhilaration, having escaped the slaughterhouse of humankind called scientific medical clinics.
Arriving home again, Ehret was changed, and this time he would go on to demonstrate his newfound strength and endurance. He'd performed the hardest farm labor and was superior in strength to trained athletes on the ordinary diet. But it was his home environment that would again prove to be his downfall. Being surrounded by friends and family who lived in the ordinary way, on the ordinary diet, and sharing his realizations and finding with professional men who demonstrated a fear at what he was developing, scared that what Ehret was onto was going to surpass their practices. All of this gradually brought Ehret back to an ordinary diet. And this time, his social circle was even more opposed to Ehret trying fast. His sister threatened to prevent one if he tried it. But he built such a firm conviction in the healing properties of rational fasting because he'd proven it to himself this time through actual experience that fasting, the act of simply eating less, was nature's omnipotent method of healing, cleansing the body from the effects of wrong or too much eating. The really cool thing is that he didn't neglect the scientific study of why fruit and mucusless foods, a term that will be explored later on, were so efficient at healing the body. He found that during the process of digestion, these foods would develop into grape sugar, a carbohydrate. Between his tests, cures, experiments, and personal experience, Ehret found that all showed grape sugar to be the essential material in human food, where it gave the highest endurance and efficiency. Most importantly, it was the best eliminator of internal debris and the most efficient healing agent known for the human body, a point that will be expounded upon and explained in future videos as we explore Ehret's healing system. Now, what does Ehret mean by grape sugar? When Ehret is talking about grape sugar or fruit sugar, he's referring to fructose, which is a carbohydrate. Fructose is a simple sugar, which is chemically known as a mono, meaning one, saccharide that's found in abundance in ripe fruits and in the next lower state in vegetables. So vegetables, these green plants, produce carbohydrates like cellulose, starch, and glucose is a simple sugar, very similar to fructose, through the process of photosynthesis. But not all carbohydrates are the same. Let's compare starch to glucose. See, starch is something known as a complex sugar, so chemically known as a poly, meaning many, saccharide. Polysaccharides are known as complex sugars because they are a structure built of many simple sugars that are bonded together, whereas monosaccharides or simple sugars are just one molecule of a simple sugar. So the bonds holding these molecules together in complex sugars can actually be broken so the simple sugar can be utilized. And this is what happens during digestion and in intelligent cooking as taught in Ehret's healing system. You see, during digestion, our body will not absorb most complex sugars through the small intestine until the complex sugar has been broken down into the simple sugars. Then our body can use those. Ripe fruits have an abundance of fructose, grape sugar, readily available for absorption. But a vegetable like a raw piece of broccoli does not. However, if you lightly steam broccoli for 5 minutes, something beautiful happens. It becomes sweet. Through the process of cooking, you develop or break down the carbohydrates in the broccoli into grape sugar. Hence why it becomes subtly sweet. And you can see this across many vegetables, onions, carrots, zucchini. It's awesome. This process of developing grape sugar in vegetables will be expounded upon and explained in future videos as we explore Ehret's healing system. What Ehret was discovering was a direct contradiction of widely accepted nutrition theories that are still accepted to this day. The reasoning these theories are born out of is something practitioners of Ehret's system call the additive principle. This term refers to the belief that humans need to accumulate, consume, and use various forms of material matter to exist. Material matter that we get from a balanced, nutritious diet. Modern day theories of nutrition and metabolism are actually born out of this reasoning because your body burns or uses 2,000 calories through its metabolism just to keep itself alive. And when you restrict your caloric intake, you end up going into your fat reserves, the extra calories you have stored up from your balanced, nutritious diet, and you use those calories to sustain yourself. Ehret totally rejects this way of thinking. In its place, offers something new, a formula of life. Vitality equals power minus obstruction. It asserts that human life exists as a result of a lack of internal obstruction. Obstruction made of waste matter, which is unnecessary. How to safely and intelligently control the elimination of this waste matter is what is taught in Ehret's healing system, where the emphasis is put on using food as a tool to eliminate this internal debris rather than consume food to obtain nutrition, which just gets you lost in the jungle that is food values. This healing system is the culmination of Ehret's lifelong search for the fundamental truths of perfect health, where Ehret introduces a new way to look at disease, how your body works, the nature of food, how to eat, how to fast, as well as why other healing systems will never perfectly heal you, explaining how unnatural foods are never perfectly eliminated by the body, always leaving behind some residue that decays inside the body into mucus or pus. This is based on the nature of the food, whether it was of plant or animal origin. Daily wrong eating creates a buildup of this disease-causing matter, and it is actually the act of elimination of this mucus or pus that we call disease. For the symptoms, the signs of disease manifest wherever there is a local accumulation and constipation of said waste material that the body is trying to eliminate. So for example, think back to the last time you had a cold or flu and you were expelling great amounts of mucus out of your nose or coughing up huge amounts of mucus and phlegm from your lungs. In the first case, the local accumulation is in the head. In the second case, you have it in the lungs. The disease symptoms are efforts by the body to eliminate this waste. The harsh mucus coughs, the mucus-filled sneezes. And when we dive into Ehret's book, he'll actually go deeper and start to explain different common diseases through this paradigm. We are taught that disease is a bad thing that must be stopped through the use of drugs, whereas Ehret teaches it as the body's way of cleaning house. So it's something that we have to intelligently see through. Ehret makes clear what wrong and right eating is and teaches us what foods are disease-causing and why, as well as what foods clean out internal debris left behind by unnatural eating. And he teaches us how to intelligently combine these right foods through his method-based system and his lessons of the transition diet, with the goal of his transition diet being to teach the practitioner how to intelligently combine right foods to clean out internal debris, to learn how to speed up or slow down the speed of the elimination of internal debris, as well as how to navigate cravings for wrong foods. Eric also gives us a simple procedure that allows us to see the internal conditions of our body, which will let us know if we can transition really quickly or if we need to be more conservative and go pretty slow. He teaches a completely different approach to physiology, how your body works, with the foundational view being that the human body is an air gas engine. In this section of his book, he presents a totally new model of how the blood circulates and the necessity of building perfect blood, and more. He deconstructs the theories of metabolism and the idea that you need to continually eat protein to survive, presenting new information from cures and experiments he conducted, as well as personal experience. And this information will absolutely rock the foundation of what you think the human body is capable of. Once all the information of disease, physiology, air transition system are understood, then you can safely approach his fasting lessons. And again, when it comes to fasting, Eric teaches a whole new perspective on what's actually going on in the body during a fast and how fasting aids in the elimination of internal debris. He teaches you how to rationally fast, how to prepare for a comfortable fast, as well as how to safely break your fast. But the most important piece is what you do in the days that follow breaking the fast. You can trust him. Eric is an authority in the realm of fasting. He even held the world record for a period of time where he fasted for 49 days while being supervised by government officials the entire time. Eric created a masterpiece, but 2 weeks after his completion, he was taken from this world. After finishing 4 lectures on utilizing fasting and the grape cure to regain health, with the grape cure being an exclusive diet of grapes and grape juice, Eric left the lecture building between the hours of 11 and 11:30 p.m. He was later found dead by his business partner, Fred Hirsch. And the story is that Eric had new dress shoes that he was unfamiliar with. And so while walking briskly on wet, oil-soaked roads in foggy conditions, he slipped on a curb and fell backwards and hit his head and died. Eric's death has and will forever raise its suspicions, but it will only serve you to focus on his work that still lives on to this day. And that's a journey that I want you to join me on, because I'm going to be revisiting Eric's work. I love the Mucus Society healing system. It's something I've practiced for almost 2 years, but I want to go exceptionally deep this time. We're gonna dive into the YouTube channel of an authority on this topic, Professor Spira, an exceptional human being, a businessman, holds a PhD, a great jazz musician, and has 20 years of experience with Eric's healing system. After going through my notes and relating to it with my personal experience, I want to dive into Spira's YouTube channel and see what he has to say on the particular lessons that we're on. If you wish to learn what it is that Eric realized after a life full of experimentation, traveling, and searching, then I hope that you stick around for what's to come. Love you all. Peace.